Hello, guys. This is your master teacher, Dr. Sonam, and welcome back to Empower Tutorials. Yes, guys, how's everyone doing? How are y'all kids? Yes, so what have we done in our past sessions? We have completed one part of the plant physiology, right, in which we have studied about the absorption of roots, correct? Now, we are going to come to the topic that is most heard, that is the most common topic, the most common word that we keep hearing since our childhood whenever we talk about plants, right? And that is photosynthesis, right? So we have always heard this term, since childhood. जब से हमने we have started studying about plants, plant physiology, about botany, about the functions of plants, about how plants help us, about how trees help us. This is the first and foremost thing that we have heard of, we have seen about. So yes, that is the topic for today. That is photosynthesis. Okay. So before we move on to the topic, what do you know about photosynthesis till now in general? ठीक है, let's not go into the details for now, but अभी तक आपने क्या सुना है? What is photosynthesis? Okay, now बहुत basic terms में what we have heard is plants will take in carbon dioxide and they give us oxygen, right? That is the basics of what we know as photosynthesis, correct? So now we will be going ahead and studying in detail what exactly happens in photosynthesis, how the plants are taking in this carbon dioxide and how they are giving out this oxygen. And does that mean that plants do not take in oxygen at all? How do plants make their respiration process? Okay, so in a gist, we'll be studying about what is basics of photosynthesis for today's session. Okay, kids, chalo, let's go ahead. Okay, so there is no excuse for not trying. Now, कोई चीज कर ली तुमने, स्टार्ट कर ली, नहीं जम रहा है करना, you will say कि I tried, yeah, but I'm not able to go ahead. That is acceptable because you have given it a try. You have tried your hands at it. ठीक है, साइकिल चलाना सीख रहे हो, चलाना सीखा, ट्राई किया, गिर गए, understood. People will appreciate you for that because आपने at least try किया, right? But when you don't even try anything, ऐसे ही बस बोल दो कि नहीं, मेरे को नहीं जमेगा ये करना, I'll not be able to do this. So people there will be a question in front of you, did you even try? So try क्यों नहीं किया इसका, you'll not be able to give any excuse, right? So it's always good that you at least give it a try, give it a shot. उसके बाद अगर कोई चीज you're facing in difficulty in और नहीं जम रहा है, then we'll find solutions to that later. But always remember, always give a try and always give a shot to anything that you want to do. Never give any excuse for not even trying. Okay, kids? Chalo, let's go ahead. Always keep this in mind. Okay, so yes, what is photosynthesis? Now, as the word suggests, what does photo mean? Photo means light, and synthesis means giving out probably some products. Okay, कुछ production हो रहा है, that is synthesis. So now, photosynthesis में plants हमको क्या दे रहे हैं? We know that they are going to give us something. Now, to give out a product, okay, or to do some kind of production, we need some raw materials for that. Correct. So that means plants are going to use up some materials in the presence of light, as the name suggests. Photo means light. So plants are going to use up the sunlight and then give us a outcome of some products. Okay, so now let's see what they are going to take in, what they are going to give out. Okay, so now when you have to say define photosynthesis, okay, there is no such like say typical wala definition for photosynthesis, but let's see how we can put it in the form of sentences. Okay, so photosynthesis is the process by which plants use sunlight, water and carbon dioxide to create oxygen and energy in the form of sugar. Correct. Now we say that plants are giving out energy. I mean, what kind of energy do you get? Do you like go sit in front of the plant and the plants will give you energy? No, right? It is not that way. So how is it that they are synthesizing or they are producing some kinds of foods, some kinds of carbohydrates, some kind of sugar, via which we are going to get that energy? So this is what that sentence means. Okay, next thing. Photosynthesis is a process used by plants and other organisms to convert light energy into chemical energy through cellular respiration can later be released to fuel the organism's metabolic activities. Correct? Same thing what we exactly discussed. It is converting the light energy into chemical energy. Light energy वो sun का ले रहा है, it is converting it into chemical energy. That chemical energy हम utilize करेंगे. उसके पहले plants will go through the process of cellular respiration. Plants also go through respiration. That means even they take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. Okay, so that respiration process is completely different from what is photosynthesis. Okay, don't mix up the two processes. So ये जो पूरा process होगा, उसके बाद the energy that will be released, that we will utilize for our own metabolic activities. ठीक है? Now see, ये diagram में भी यही है. Light is being used up. Okay, water is there. Water is being absorbed from the roots. Of course, what we have previously seen in absorption of roots, water absorb होता है. Now, what is chlorophyll? We will be seeing about it in detail now. Basics में हमको ये पता है that chlorophyll is a green pigment. ठीक है? Now, carbon dioxide लेता है, enters through the stomata of the leaves. Now, how does carbon dioxide enter? What is stomata? We will be studying ahead. अब इसके आगे क्या होता है? Now, oxygen is given off into the air and जो sugars रहेंगे, that is converted in the form of starch, which is stored food in other parts of the plant. Okay, it turns iodine dark blue. Okay, starch turns iodine dark blue. That is a reaction between starch and iodine. Okay, keep that aside. For now, what you need to know for photosynthesis is what is happening. Light energy convert हो रही है chemical energy में. That chemical energy is first being utilized in the cellular respiration, and then via that कुछ energy release होती है, which we as organisms we use it for our own activities. ठीक है? Okay, going ahead. This is a very important thing that you need to know, the equation of photosynthesis. अगर आपको basics पता है photosynthesis में क्या हो रहा है, there is nothing difficult to learn in this equation. ठीक है? What is the equation? CO2 plus H2O. CO2 is the carbon dioxide, H2O is the water. Addition of these two things in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Okay, sunlight के लिए ये यहाँ sun है, chlorophyll के लिए ये यहाँ leaf दिखाया है, gives out glucose, which we are saying that it is a form of sugar, plus oxygen, which is released into the atmosphere. ठीक है? C6H12O6 is the molecular formula for glucose. Okay, so carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll gives out glucose, which is a form of sugar and releases oxygen in the air. That is it about the equation of photosynthesis. This is really very important. Okay, so just know this. Okay, so now going ahead to what is raw materials and products. Now, as we have seen in the previous slide, like I said, raw materials are the, now whenever we do some kind of production, okay, shoes बनाने वाला factory होगा, they will need some products, right? वो shoe को manufacture करने के लिए they might need some types of glue, they might need some types of leather, so they might need the paint, they might need dyes, they might need color. So ये सब चीजें जो utilize होती है in any kind of production are the raw materials, and हमको जो उसके बाद product, उसके बाद जो outcome मिलता है, that is our product. ठीक है? So now in this photosynthesis when we are talking about, हमारा carbon dioxide and reaction हो सकता है. So those conditions which are needed are really important. Now, what are those conditions here? That is the presence of sunlight and the pigment chlorophyll. Okay, keep this in mind. Carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll gives us glucose and oxygen. Okay, glucose is a form of sugar. Okay, now why is it required? When we talk about why is it required, we are talking about why is photosynthesis required. Okay, what is the basic importance of photosynthesis? Okay, let's see now. General knowledge, हमारे general knowledge के हिसाब से हमको क्या पता है? Oxygen मिलता है और खाना मिलता है. Like we have seen, we are getting sugars, right? Some form of sugars. So that is food, right? Okay. The process of photosynthesis results in the synthesis of food from inorganic raw materials. Like we have seen, हमारे inorganic raw materials हम ले रहे हैं but उसमें से हमको we are getting proper food, and that is food for all, right? All organisms, animals, we as human beings, everyone, you know, there is food for everyone that we are getting from photosynthesis. Okay, next thing, green plants provides organic food to all the animals and heterotrophic plants. Correct? Now what is heterotrophic? Which depend on other organisms which cannot make their own food. Okay. Photosynthesis helps in the addition of oxygen in the atmosphere required by all organisms. Now, of course, we all, you know, we all organisms are breathing in oxygen. So, ये photosynthesis के process के through there is more addition of oxygen into the air. Oxygen is anyways present into the air or say as a gas in the form of atmosphere. But ये जो photosynthesis का process होता है, इससे level of oxygen और बढ़ जाता है. Okay. So that is how even photosynthesis helps in the quantity of oxygen. Next thing, photosynthesis decreases the concentration of carbon dioxide increase due to respiration of organisms. Now, there are like millions, trillions of organisms which are breathing continuously. We are continuously breathing. Now, what are we doing when we are breathing? हम oxygen अंदर ले रहे हैं, carbon dioxide बाहर दे रहे हैं, right? So similarly, all organisms are giving out carbon dioxide. Now imagine अगर ये carbon dioxide जो सब लोग exhale कर रहे हैं, it stays in the environment. Okay, I mean it's going to be so harmful, right? So plants help us, or you can say the process of this photosynthesis is helping us. वो carbon dioxide utilize कर रहा है, जो हम exhale कर रहे हैं environment में. The plants are taking up that carbon dioxide. तो इससे क्या हो रहा है? जो environment में carbon dioxide है, उसका quantity कम हो रहा है. Got it? So उसका concentration कम हो रहा है. So that is how photosynthesis is helping us decrease the concentration of carbon dioxide. Okay, are we clear? What are all the benefits of photosynthesis? Yes. Okay. Okay. Now there is something known as a chloroplast. Okay. Now remember, each plant cell is going to have about say 40 to 50 chloroplasts. Each cell will have 40 to 50 chloroplasts. Now let's see this organelle, the cell organelle chloroplast, what exactly it is. Okay. Now remember, chloroplast is the location for photosynthesis. ठीक है, it is the location, मतलब photosynthesis यहाँ पे होता है. ठीक है. Okay, so what are chloroplasts? They are organelles that conduct photosynthesis, where the photosynthetic pigment chlorophyll captures the energy from sunlight, converts it, and stores it in the energy storage molecules, that is ATP and NADPH, while freeing oxygen from water in the plant and algal cells. Okay. Now, in a gist, let me explain this to you. Firstly, chloroplasts are the organelles जिसके अंदर photosynthesis हो रहा है. Know that. ठीक है. अभी chloroplast के अंदर होता है chlorophyll pigment. This is what you have understood from whatever I have read now. ठीक है. Now we'll see ये कहाँ होता है. Okay. Now see, as you see this structure, this is the structure of a chloroplast. ठीक है, उसका एक outer membrane होगा, एक inner membrane होगा. What is the stroma? Stroma is all going to be all the fluid which is present inside the chloroplast. ठीक है, that is the stroma. Now there is something known as do you see these piles? ठीक है, हम books कैसे stack करते हैं एक दूसरे के ऊपर, एक pile बन जाती है. तो ये जो pile है इन चीजों की, that pile is known as the granum. Okay, grana and granum. Okay, singular and plural. So that stack or that pile is the granum. ठीक है, अभी ये pile किस चीज की है? So ये pile जिस चीज की है, ये जो छोटे छोटे ring like discs है, और you can say coin like जो structures हैं, those are known as thylakoids. Okay, those are known as thylakoids. So now एक के ऊपर एक ये thylakoids piled है, या इनका stack बनाया हुआ है. ठीक है, तो ये जो stack है, that pile is known as grana or granum. And what is the grana or granum containing? It is containing a number of thylakoids. ठीक है, those coin like structures or the disc like structures that you see here are known as thylakoids. ये एक एक single structure है. Okay, and they are joining up to form this pile which we are calling as the grana or granum. Now in between every thylakoid, the space or the tubular structure which is going to be there, that is known as the lumen. I mean any gap in between two things, we call it like a lumen, right? So anything between the two thylakoids is going to be known as the lumen. Now ये जो सनलाइट कैप्चर करता है प्लांट, ठीक है, ये हम जो बोल रहे हैं कि सनलाइट की वजह से फोटोसिंथेसिस हो रहा है, सो आई मीन बस सनलाइट पड़ती है प्लांट पे और फोटोसिंथेसिस चालू हो जाता है, ऐसा नहीं होता है. ओके, नाउ देयर इज स्पेसिफिकली दिस पिगमेंट दैट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट व्हिच इज क्लोरोफिल, which is a capturing center for the sunlight. The sunlight will only be captured by the chlorophyll pigment. ठीक है, chlorophyll pigment नहीं है मतलब photosynthesis नहीं होगा. It is as good as that. Okay. So now we will be studying about what chlorophyll is. See, this is how the chlorophyll looks like. Okay, it is under the slide structure. No, say these are the cells you can say. उसके अंदर है ये chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is going to be present in the mesophyll cells. Okay, mesophyll cells of the थैलाकॉइड. क्लोरोफिल रहता है क्लोरोप्लास्ट के अंदर, लेकिन क्लोरोप्लास्ट के अंदर भी वो कहाँ रहता है, थैलाकॉइड पे रहता है. ठीक है, सो दिस इज द क्लोरोफिल. नाउ सी, एज यू सी दिस हियर, लेट मी जस्ट शो यू, गिव मी अ मिनट. सी नाउ ये थैलाकॉइड का स्ट्रक्चर है. ठीक है, ये थैलाकॉइड का स्ट्रक्चर है. इसके बाउंड्रीज पे या यू कैन से इसके मार्जिन्स पे क्लोरोफिल पिगमेंट इज गोइंग टू बी प्रेजेंट. ठीक है, एवरी थैलाकॉइड के बाउंड्री या मार्जिन पे ये क्लोरोफिल पिगमेंट होगा. और ये जो पिगमेंट है, दिस पिगमेंट इज द एरिया जहां पे सनलाइट पड़ता है एंड द पिगमेंट कैप्चर्स दैट लाइट एंड यूजेस इट इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस. ठीक है, तो ये एक के नीचे एक ऐसे थैलाकॉइड्स आर स्टैक्ड अप. सो यू ऑल हैव अंडरस्टूड वेयर क्लोरोफिल इज एग्जैक्टली प्रेजेंट. ओके, सो क्लोरोफिल इज गोइंग टू बी प्रेजेंट ऑन द membrane or margin or boundary of each thylakoid, which is a disc-like structure that we are talking about. ठीक है, now going forward, like I told you, this chlorophyll is present in these mesophyll cells, and there are these types of chlorophylls, or you can say, or type, they are actually types of photosynthetic pigments, but chlorophyll के बहुत सारे types है. There are 9 types of chlorophyll, that is A, B, C, D, E. Then bacteriochlorophyll A, B, then chlorobium chlorophyll 650, 666. So I mean, you just need to know that there are 9 types of photosynthetic pigments. There are actually 3 types of pigments, that is chlorophyll, carotenoid and phycobilins. ठीक है, and here we are only interested in chlorophyll pigment, that is the green pigment. ठीक है, तो वो chlorophyll के होते हैं 9 types. Okay, just remember that. Now you don't need to mug up or learn like necessarily all these types, but just know that chlorophyll A and B are the common ones which are present, and this pigment helps us for the photosynthesis process. That's all you need to remember about chlorophyll. ठीक है, okay. Now coming to the next important thing, what is stomata? ठीक है, अभी हमने पीछे, if you remember, we read this somewhere that, okay, yes, we saw it in this diagram over here. Carbon dioxide enters through the stomata of the leaves. करेक्ट, तो अब ये स्टोमेटा क्या है, स्टोमेटा ऑफ द लीव्स है, मतलब एक बात तो आप समझ गए दैट दिस स्टोमेटा इज सम स्ट्रक्चर व्हिच इज प्रेजेंट ऑन द लीफ. ठीक है, अभी यहाँ से क्या हो रहा है, लेट्स सी दैट. सो स्टोमेटा आर द टाइनी ओपनिंग्स ऑन द प्लांट्स थ्रू व्हिच द गैसियस एक्सचेंज टेक्स प्लेस. गैसियस एक्सचेंज मतलब अभी यही एक्सचेंज होने वाला है कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड और ऑक्सीजन का. ठीक है, अभी स्टोमेटा क्या है पहले वो देखते हैं. In a gist, we know that there are tiny openings present on the plant, specifically on the leaves of the plants. ठीक है, अब देखो ये है लीफ का स्ट्रक्चर. ये यहाँ पे छोटे छोटे जो पोर्स होंगे, that will be stomata. Magnified is going to be it will be looking like this. This is a more magnified image. ये दिख रहे हो आप, ये ऊपर का बाउंड्री है, ये अंदर 2 cells हैं. Can you see these 2 cells? Now see the diagram here. Okay. Guys, we have already studied about this stomata thing, basics of this in the chapter transpiration. Correct? So transpiration में हमने क्या देखा था? It is the loss of water in the form of vapor from the aerial parts of the plant. So stomata के through जो loss of water होता है, हम उसको क्या बोलते हैं? Stomatal transpiration, right? So now somebody tell me what are these cells going to be known as? ये जो stomata के side में जो 2 cells हैं, हम उसको क्या बोलते हैं? What shape do they resemble? These 2 cells that you see here. Yes. Yes, they resemble the kidney shape. Okay, so these 2 cells are the kidney shaped cells, or you can say the bean shaped cells, which are known as the guard cells. Okay, GUARD, guard cells. Okay, ये 2 stomata is the aperture which is in the center, समझ. ठीक है, उसके साइड में ऐसे बीन शेप्ड के 2 सेल्स होते हैं जिसको हम बोलते हैं गार्ड सेल्स विच आर किडनी शेप्ड और बीन शेप्ड. ठीक है. साइड में ऑफ कोर्स देयर इज गोइंग टू बी अ सेल वॉल. ये 2 सेल्स है साइड में और बीच में स्टोमेटल अपर्चर है. अपर्चर है, वी आर कॉलिंग इट अपर्चर बिकॉज इट ओपन्स एंड इट क्लोजेस. ठीक है. For now, you need to know that stomata is the structure. We also call it stoma or stomata. So this is the structure via which the exchange of gases takes place. ठीक है. Now let's see आगे what we have to see in this. Okay. Now ये जो gaseous exchange हो रहा है, ठीक है, ये कैसे हो रहा है? Let's see that. ठीक है. Now what is exactly happening? Now this process is basically divided into what happens in the daytime and what happens in the night. ठीक है. अभी देखो डे टाइम में क्या हो रहा है. What is a very obvious thing during daytime? बहुत सारा sunlight होगा. Correct. There's going to be a lot of sunlight. So now what happens when there is a lot of sunlight? The sunlight is going to be falling on these guard cells. ठीक है. So what happens is light falls on the receptors. ठीक है. ये साइड में आसपास गार्ड सेल्स के जो रिसेप्टर्स होंगे वहां पर जब ये सनलाइट पड़ता है, so it starts attracting potassium ions which are there in its environment. मतलब स्टोमेटा का जो स्ट्रक्चर है, वन स्टोमेटा, ठीक है, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट वन स्टोमेटा हियर. ये अभी हर स्टोमेटा स्ट्रक्चर में होता है. ये गार्ड सेल्स है. गार्ड सेल्स के बाहर देयर इज गोइंग टू बी अ लॉट ऑफ concentration of the potassium ions. ठीक है, because it is going to be, say you can say, a hypertonic solution outside this. ठीक है. So there is a lot of potassium ions ये गार्ड सेल के रिसेप्टर्स के बाहर. तो जब लाइट फॉल्स ऑन दीज रिसेप्टर्स तो ये स्टार्ट अट्रैक्टिंग द पोटेशियम आयंस. ठीक है. तो क्या होता है जब पोटेशियम आयंस अट्रैक्ट हो रहे हैं, देयर इज अ प्रोसेस ऑफ ऑस्मोसिस दैट इज हैपनिंग. ठीक है. वी हैव सीन व्हाट इज ऑस्मोसिस. मूवमेंट ऑफ द वाटर पार्टिकल्स वाया द सेमी परमिएबल मेम्ब्रेन फ्रॉम वन कंसंट्रेशन टू द अदर. ठीक है. सो नाउ व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, जो बाहर पानी है, okay, all the water that is present outside the guard cell that starts entering the cells via the process of osmosis. ठीक है. पानी जब अंदर आता है cells के, the cells become turgid. We have studied the terms kids about turgid and flaccid. ठीक है. We have seen turgidity मतलब क्या होता है, cells swell हो जाते हैं. Okay, they become, when they take in water they swell up. ठीक है. So this is what exactly happens. वाटर जब एंटर करता है स्टोमेटा में या साइड के गार्ड सेल्स में, ये जो गार्ड सेल्स होते हैं दे बिकम टर्जिड. मतलब सपोज इफ द स्ट्रक्चर इज लाइक दिस. ठीक है. द स्ट्रक्चर इज लाइक दिस. इसके अंदर अगर पानी जा रहा है, ठीक है, तो द सेल्स विल स्टार्ट टेकिंग अप द वाटर एंड दे बिकम टर्जिड. मतलब दे स्टार्ट स्वेलिंग. तो व्हेन दे स्टार्ट स्वेलिंग ये धीरे 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 से खुलने लगता है. ये ऐसे सेल्स हो रहे हैं, मतलब क्या हो रहा है, स्टोमेटा इज ओपनिंग अप. ठीक है. सो सी Here you see, ये दो सेल्स है. ठीक है. नॉर्मली ये ऐसे दिख रहे हैं. ठीक है. अब जब इसके अंदर पानी आएगा, लाइट पड़ रहा है, पोटेशियम आयंस अट्रैक्ट हो रहे हैं, वाटर इज गोइंग इनसाइड, these cells are becoming fat, these cells are taking in water, they are swelling up, and when they swell up they become like this, they go a little away from each other. तो उसकी वजह से क्या होता है, ये स्टोमेटल अपर्चर जो है ये ओपन हो जाता है. ठीक है. Now this is happening in the daytime. Now exactly opposite thing is happening in the night time. Now what is going to happen in the night time? पहली बात तो लाइट नहीं रहेगा, there will be no sunlight. Correct. Now when there is going to be no light, water is going to want to leave the cell. Water wants to leave the cell. Water के साथ साथ potassium ions will also move out. Correct. तो अब जो सेल ऐसा था, जो स्टोमेटा ओपन्ड था, उसमें से अगर पानी निकलता जाएगा, पोटेशियम आयंस निकलते जाएंगे, slowly 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 what will happen, these cells will come down to the normal position and the stoma will close. Correct. So exactly opposite thing happens in the night time. What happens, there is no light, there is going to be the water deficiency, potassium ions will start moving out, the cells will become flaccid and the stoma will close. Now what is flaccid? Flaccid means cells are shrinking. Shrink हो रहे हैं, they are losing shape. When they lose shape, they are going to close. So that is how the stoma is closing. ठीक है. So अभी हमने ये जो पढ़ा about the stomata, say about the structure of the stomata and about the opening and closing of the stomata, this together is known as the potassium ion theory. Okay, now kids, this is a very important part of plant physiology in terms of absorption of roots, in terms of transpiration और in terms of photosynthesis. ठीक है. ऐसा बोला जाता है that transpiration is incidental to photosynthesis. मतलब जो transpiration का भी प्रोसेस होता है वो photosynthesis की वजह से होता है. Now why? We will see कि exactly हो क्या रहा है potassium ion theory. See. Here you see this is the open structure. ये side में cell wall है, इधर अंदर chloroplasts हैं. ये जो दो cells हैं, these are the guard cells. ये बीच का जो structure है, that is the vacuole, and of course there's going to be a nucleus. Now this is the open stoma. This is the closed stoma. You don't see any aperture here, any open space here, so it is a closed stoma. Okay. Now let's see what is the potassium ion exchange theory. When green plants are exposed to light, guard cells take up a large amount of potassium ions. Then they become hypertonic and attract water by osmosis, right? Like I explained. This makes the guard cells turgid and opens the stomata. And at night, potassium ions and the water will move out of the guard cells, thus making them flaccid. And hence the stomata closes. Okay? So, this is in a just what you all have understood about what is happening in opening and closing of stomata. अब तुम लोग बोलोगे कि इसका फोटोसिंथेसिस से क्या कनेक्शन है, करेक्ट, ये तो अलग ही कुछ चीज हो रही है ओपनिंग एंड क्लोजिंग ऑफ स्टोमेटा. तो क्या होता है, ये जब स्टोमेटा जो ओपन हो रहा है, सो द कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड इज गेटिंग अ चांस टू एंटर द प्लांट. गॉट इट. ये स्टोमेटा जब ओपन होता है, व्हेन देयर इज दिस ओपन स्पेस व्हिच इज बीइंग फॉर्म्ड, उस स्पेस के थ्रू द कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड इज एंटरिंग द प्लांट्स, एंड दैट इज हाउ द कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एंटर्स वाया द लीव्स, and then that plant is taking up that carbon dioxide and further utilizing it for the process of photosynthesis. ठीक है. अब ये हो गया photosynthesis. ठीक है, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड ये अपर्चर से अंदर जा रहा है. सेम थिंग हैपेंस इन ट्रांसपिरेशन. ये जब स्टोमेटा ओपन होता है, जब कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड भी एंटर हो रहा है, बिकॉज द स्टोमेटा इज ओपनिंग, via that opening also there is some loss of water, but that is in the form of vapor, and that process we call it as transpiration. Okay, so this is basically in a gist of what happens in the potassium ion exchange theory, and how this potassium ion exchange theory is important for photosynthesis, and how photosynthesis and transpiration are somewhere interlinked. Okay. Today, kids, whatever we have seen in the today's lecture about photosynthesis, all you need to remember is photosynthesis basically is a process जिसमें plants carbon dioxide ले रहे हैं, ठीक है, in presence of some water which is already present in the plants, but the ideal conditions that they need is the presence of the pigment chlorophyll and a large amount of sunlight. इसके presence में what they are giving out? They are giving out food for us in the form of sugar, that is glucose, and plus oxygen is being released into the air. ठीक है, this is basically photosynthesis. Photosynthesis का equation अच्छे से एक बार पढ़ लेना, why photosynthesis is important to us, and after that all the basic thing that we studied about stomata का opening, ठीक है, stomata का closing, and the potassium ion exchange theory. Okay, now this is a very basic thing, and yes, सबसे important structure of the chloroplast. ठीक है, you need to know what a thylakoid is, what a granum is, and where the chlorophyll is present. So these things are really important from point of view of photosynthesis. Diagrams, MCQs, all these are really important from this chapter. So definitely kids, do like and subscribe to our channel, go through our sessions, go through this session 1 of photosynthesis to make it easier for yourself to understand my next session on photosynthesis really very soon. Okay kids, I'll see you. Bye bye.